Welcome to the 5-Week Linguist Show. If you want to learn a language or you teach a language, you've come to the right place. Join Janina each week for tips, resources, and advice for making engaging language learning happen anytime, anywhere.
Welcome to the 5-Week Linguist Show. The end of the year can be really hard for both teachers and students. And this week, I wanted to share with you a few activities to just make it a little bit lighter and a little bit funner. And if you're an independent language learner, these work great as well. You can use them with any language. So the very first one is a tour of my house. And if you follow Benny Lewis, the Irish polyglot, he used to do these great house tours, and he would walk around taking a video of his house, and he would talk about all the different rooms, what's in there. I thought it was so clever and really fun, and I decided to adapt this activity for my students. And so they walk around with their phones if they want, and they can record their house and talk about it in the target language. Of course, they can make a little script before and tell us about their house. Then another alternative to this is to just do a dream house. So do Google Slides, and then they can narrate it. I really like the app Fishbowl. They can also download it as a PowerPoint, and you just record it and then export it as a movie. There's a lot of different options out there, but it doesn't have to be their house. And it's a really fun exercise to do to learn how to talk about houses, and you can do the same. I'm going to link below, and I'm going to show you my house. And I hope to have some more examples in other languages for you soon. I have one in Italian that I need a real Italian house done by the wonderful Valentina. She's published some Italian stuff on here. It's been really great. And she shows you her house, but we need to learn some video editing before we publish it. So give us a tour of your house, or a tour of your dream house that you created on slides. And I added some guiding questions in the blog. Personal soundtracks. So I'm really in love with Spotify. And I just think it is just this amazing treasure trove for language teachers and learners. And if you're a teacher and they have access to, Spotify, or even a YouTube list or songs that they like, they can, give them a certain number depending on their proficiency level and have them write a little paragraph as to why they like each song. And it's really great if you can do this in the target language, have them find even one song that they like in the target language. And I think this is great to make your own playlist on Spotify, and that's your soundtrack. Or just songs that you like if you really want an easy take on it. Songs you love from your target language. The next activity is rose, thorn, and bud. And it's springtime, and I love roses, and I always find so much inspiration. And in this activity, you share something great, the rose, something difficult, the thorn, and the bud, something to look forward to. And you do it in the target language. So I would give my students some time to prepare. I'd probably bring in some roses for visual inspiration. It's a great icebreaker, but later in the year, it's a really nice review of vocabulary. Really, they have to create a few sentences for each thing, and then they have to share. So it's a great listening and speaking activity. And it's great journal activity for any learner. It works in any language. Nature walk, going for a walk outside, really helps give a change of pace and some movement. I know so many people who are teaching remotely. I mean, you haven't seen your students. But I think that incorporating nature into languages is a great thing. even just chatting on the walk, if you've got students who are at least at the intermediate level and can do that. I also think another thing would be to provide them with some guiding questions to help them ask and answer while they're on the talk. A really fun and active way to do this, if you've got clipboards, I think you might need clipboards to be able to really do this, is make a sheet of things that you are going to find on this walk, and the students have to, in the target language, of course, so trees and leaves and grass and houses or really specific things, and they have to mark off that they found them, or do some sort of acknowledgement that they did that, or draw a picture of it. You could even sit outside and they can draw those pictures. It's just a nice change of pace and really getting into that nature vocabulary. Myself, inside and outside. And usually students can take a selfie to start, and then they need to select 3 images that represent them on the inside. And they have to present these photos and describe why they selected these photos in the target language. And I let them do this from their phones. They can also make a presentation and put it on Fishbowl or do their own drawings. And I really think that this is a great resource for language classes, our artists in class. They love doing it. They love doing visual things, and it can really help them learn languages at the same time. Bubbles. I learned this activity from my first year teaching from an Excellent World language activity. And basically you blow bubbles and you give students a task. COVID time, I know might not be really realistic, but you could even do it if you're on your Zoom, your Meet, and you blow out bubbles and they're in front of the camera, and maybe they have to count them or conjugate a verb. Or maybe this is something you could even do outside. You can definitely do it in the future when the world is a bit more normal. And another way that I like to use bubbles are speech bubbles. Okay. And this is perfectly safe. You can go to makecomics.com. They have speech bubbles. And I know all of our publishing options have little speech bubbles, but doing a little cartoon of a conversation using speech bubbles in some way, or they can actually draw them, right? Nice little change of pace where they do a little cartoon of 2 friends talking, maybe something simple, 6 scenes. Popular sayings and idiomatic expressions. I think that one of the hardest and most relevant things that we can learn in the world language classroom are popular sayings and idiomatic expressions. So these are a real challenge because, our first tendency is to translate things literally, and of course they don't go that way. A really simple example of an idiomatic expression, of course, is something like, j'ai faim, I'm hungry. So I have hunger. Well, that doesn't really translate to English. So I'd love to use this to review and teach idiomatic expressions or proverbs, and just write out 10 to 15 in one column and then their English equivalents. And I really like to, basically it's a big matching activity, and they have to match which one they think it is. So in one column, you've got your 10 to 15 proverbs, and then in the other one, they have their equivalents, and they have to match them up. And it's really fun to go over the answers. I love including things like text abbreviations as well, and ways to start letters, because they don't necessarily automatically make those connections. Thank yous. Writing cards is a great way to practice authentic communication in a new language and can really help develop a positive mindset. So I really like to have people select someone and they write a detailed thank you card, someone, something, and then we display them all on the board for all to read. And I think it's a really great way to teach structures too, to do this as an oral activity. Thank you for, you have to find 10 things you're grateful for. That can be really difficult, but it's a great exercise because it forces you to find the good. Nature scenes. I love to give nature scenes as a change of pace activity. And I think that, as I said earlier, so many students are really good at drawing and they actually really enjoy doing it. So after after, introducing or reviewing basic vocabulary words to talk about nature, have them create a scene, and they can draw a photograph or make something else to represent the words. And this is a really nice activity to do outside, just to get them outside and in nature and just change of pace, enjoyable. Taxi cab. So I always get lots of inspiration from places that you'd expect, but I also find a lot of it in the less obvious places. And I live near London, and I'm not in any taxi cabs right now. And so this will be in the future. This is a post-COVID activity, but students take turns being drivers and passengers. And they have to speak the target language, but you can actually just set up the scenario anyway. They're not actually getting in a taxi, of course, at all in this activity. And they just take turns. They can do this from their desks, or even in a Zoom or a Google Meet, where they have to have a conversation, and then two other students have to have a conversation. And I might use something like Wheel of Names to match them up. Art. I love to give these change of pace activities. So group graffiti. So students work in groups to illustrate or paint a scene described in the target language. And I would have students obviously do this on their own right now, sitting at their desk, and then compare answers. That's a good, safe way to do this activity. And storyboard. So illustrate a story read in the target language and then present it. And back to what I said earlier, having students do this together, draw what your partner describes. This works really well even with novice level tasks like describing a person and the other person, a body part. So for example, a crazy person. This person has, 5 arms and 7 hands, or something like that. And they have to draw. The other person has to draw what they say. It's really fun. And what we love, graffiti. I love to use anything that can be written on and make a giant heart, and everybody has to put in something they love. And we title it, Me encanta, or, j'adore. And it's really fun way to get a lot of verbs in there too. And everybody can sign the giant heart. The giant heart. You can even do this on, a Google Doc or a Jamboard, something like that, and where everybody can post. But I would really like to just cut it out, and then everybody writes something that they love. And then it's really great because then you can go and try to guess who loves what. So I might even have, if you don't want students to have any contact or you don't have that ability, is that everybody can write you what they love, or put that on a Jamboard, and you can just copy and paste that into a heart on Google Draw, and then display that on the screen. And it's a great speaking activity. You have to guess who likes what. In person, it's fun when they know each other's handwriting. Coffee talk, something I talk about a lot. I love, 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 love coffee talk. Of course, we don't serve coffee in classes, but the idea of just sitting around and breaking bread with somebody is really a great thing to do. I love hosting guest speakers from the Spanish speaking world. I use italki, and I have the students prepare before. I find a speaker. I've also, my cousins, I've had my friends, I've had, people show up that, I haven't, people that I know, personally as well, you could do in your classes. So either way, but hosting guest speakers, the idea being, it's a controlled environment. You're keeping the kids safe. It's your communication. And, the students are having an interaction with a native Spanish speaker or French speaker or whatever it may be. You can just have them prepare ahead of time. If they're a little bit more advanced, I have them bullet point topics out, and they join a table and speak, and then you switch to a new group. This is, again, another sort of pre and post-COVID type of activity, but there's no reason that you can't do this on your Google Meet, and even do it with the shyer students. Everybody has to say something in chat. You can ask them questions and they can chat back to you. Quizlet Live. So I love Quizlet Live. Kahoot is similar, really games, but I think the language teachers were on Quizlet early. So basically they have vocabulary sets that people contribute. It's amazing. You can search your textbook, you can search your theme, you can search your topic, and everybody ends up, you hit live and it'll make a code, and you can actually put that in your chat box if you're remote, or you could just display it, in your classroom, and everybody joins, and it automatically makes teams, and you start games, and there's tons of learning that goes on. And I know that students can join with their own devices. They do a little QR code. It's incredibly engaging. Comics. So again, back to those bubbles. I just wanted to leave you a little resource here about making comics as an end of year fun activity for those speech bubbles. So I want to take my hats off to all of my hat, rather. I'm actually not wearing a hat, but you get the picture. My language teaching colleagues who have kept it all going during this incredibly difficult time. And I hope that these activities provide you with some ideas for end of year fun in your language class. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the 5-Week Linguist Show with Janina Klimas. Join us each week here and visit us at reallifelanguage.com/reallifelanguageblog for more resources for learning and teaching languages.